seeing what happened in Maiduguri when our brothers carried their concern to government when 42 children were taken away from a school in Mussa.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the other side. Today we begin with a simple question. What happens when children leave school and never return? What happens when parents spend days, weeks, and months wondering whether their children are hungry, frightened, injured, or even still alive? And what happens when an entire community feels that its cry is not being heard? This episode is inspired by a press statement and a prayer session that was held by members of the Margi community living in Abuja, men and women whose roots trace back to Southern Borno, people whose families, ancestral communities are directly affected by the insecurity unfolding in the region. Recently, they gathered in fasting and prayer, not for politics, not for elections, not for power, but for the safe return of 42 abducted children taken from Mussa Community in Askira-Uba local government area of Borno State. My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. Tonight we ask, who are these children? What happened to them? Why are communities in Southern Borno still facing these tragedies more than a decade after Chibok? And what does this say about Nigeria's broader security crisis?
Insurgency attacked our community and abducted 42 pupils, which are 1 year, 7 months to 19 years, from nursery primary school, secondary school, junior secondary school, and senior secondary school. All within this age bracket, about 42 of them have been abducted, and up to today, we could not trace or hear their whereabouts.
May 2026, armed attackers stormed Mussa Community in Askira-Uba local government area of Borno State. Reports indicate that approximately 42 children were abducted. Some were taken directly from school. Others were reportedly seized from their homes. Witnesses described armed men arriving on motorcycles. The attackers moved quickly. Parents watched helplessly. Teachers could do very little. And within few minutes, dozens of children vanished into the forest and the rugged terrain that have become synonymous with insurgent activity in the eastern part of Nigeria. For the families left behind, time seemed to have stopped. Every passing hour brought new fears. Every rumor brought new hope. And every day without answers deepened the pain. The number 42 is easy to say. Numbers can hide reality. And every statistics is a human life. 42 children, 42 dreams, 42 futures, 42 families waiting for answers. Some wanted to become teachers. Some dreamed of becoming doctors. Some had only recently learned how to write their names or even spell their names. Today, many parents do not know where their children are. They do not know if the children are safe. They do not know whether the children have enough food. They don't even know whether the children are sick. And they don't even know if these children will ever return home. The pain of uncertainty is one of the most difficult burdens a family can carry. The response from the Margi community in Abuja was both emotional and symbolic. Members organized some days of prayer and fasting. Their message was simple: release our children. Their actions reflected something deeper. When citizens increasingly rely on prayer as their last line of defense, this raises difficult questions about security, governance, and public confidence. The gathering was not merely a religious exercise. It was a public appeal. It was a time to cry and call the attention of the nation. A reminder that communities affected by insecurity often feel forgotten, and a warning that prolonged insecurity leaves emotional scars far beyond the immediate victims. To understand Mussa, we must understand Southern Borno. Askira-Uba is not new to tragedy. For years, communities there have faced attacks, kidnapping, displacement, and loss. Then there is Chibok. In 2014, Boko Haram abducted 276 schoolgirls. The world responded with the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. The incident became one of the most famous mass kidnappings in modern history. Yet, more than a decade later, some of the girls, at least 80 of them, still remain unaccounted for. Then there is Goza, one of the areas hardest hit during this insurgency. Recently, over 300 women and children were abducted from the area.
We are gathered here to pray for the release of our children. Our children were abducted for the past 29 days, almost a month today. on the 15th of May 2026. We have been praying earnestly for their release, and we believe that the Almighty God will release them in His own way. First and foremost, our people down in the society are rendered homeless. Now, it has gone to our children. Our children no longer go to school because of what has happened.
Entire communities were displaced, homes were destroyed, families were scattered, and across the border in historic town of Madagali, another community that endured attacks, displacement, and years of uncertainty. The geography changes, but the suffering remains the same. Many Nigerians know Chibok. Some remember Dapchi, but fewer know how many other children have been affected. In 2014, 176 Chibok schoolgirls were abducted. In 2018, 110 Dapchi schoolgirls were also abducted. 104 were later released. Some died. One of the girls abducted has remained in the hands of the terrorists, having been married severally to different terrorist leaders. Across Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, countless other children have been abducted from villages, farms, roads, schools, and displaced persons camps. Human rights organizations and United Nations reports have documented cases involving forced marriages, forced labor, sexual slavery, recruitment of boys as fighters, use of children as spies and informants, and indeed the use of very young girls as suicide bombers. The impact extends far beyond the initial kidnapping. It shapes entire generations.
I come from Askira-Uba local government, and Mussa is immediate community to my village, and I grew up around that environment, that beautiful environment where we received sound education without inhibition, where we enjoyed unlimited access to education. And today, that process is being disrupted. And we want to say, we are tired. We are saying, we are fed up. Release our children. Release our children. Release those in captivity. Those who are being held in the forest, whether in Arere or in Sambisa. We want them back. Their parents need them. Their families need them. The community need them. This country need them because they are the future leaders of this country. March all the security apparatus to the forest. Flush the terrorists out. Deal with them. Let's set an example with some of them, and this nonsense will stop.
This is perhaps the most difficult question. Survival testimonies reveal different experiences. Some children escape, some are rescued, some are released, others remain missing and may never be reunited with their families. Girls have often reported forced marriages and sexual violence. Boys have reported military-style training and forced labor. Many survivors struggle with trauma long after returning home. Education is disrupted. Families are shattered. Communities are left with emotional wounds that can last a lifetime. Recently, another kidnapping involving pupils occurred in Oyo State. The purpose of mentioning Oyo is not to compare suffering. Pain cannot be ranked. A grieving mother in Oyo suffers no less than a grieving mother in Borno. But the comparison raises an important national question. Is insecurity spreading? Many security experts believe it is. The tactics once associated with the Northwest has increasingly become what is being practiced in other regions. Kidnapping for ransom, school attacks, rural community raids, the warning signs are difficult to ignore. The lesson from Mussa is not that Southern Borno has a problem. The lesson is that Nigeria has a problem, and this problem keeps expanding.
We have gathered to round up a prayer and fasting program that we had. We started on the 12th, and we are rounding up today on the 14th, three-day prayer and fasting. And the reason is because of what we have cried to God in your hearing. The children that have been abducted, 42 children in Uba Askira. On daily basis, 4, 5, almost, the people are being kidnapped, 2, 3 are being killed every week.
There is another question that many people in Southern Borno are asking. Not only what happened to their children, but why their tragedy appears to have generated different responses in the country from similar incidents elsewhere. But
for over 14 years now, people have not been reporting what is happening to our people on daily basis. You go to Madagali, poor area, you will see that on daily basis people are being abducted, people are being killed, churches are being destroyed, killings, but we hardly see it on the media. So we decided to say, okay, let us come and cry to God. That's our only place we can go to. Our maker.
let us be clear from the beginning, this is not competition of suffering. Pain cannot be measured by geography. A child abducted in Oyo is no less important than a child abducted in Borno. A grieving parent in Ibadan cries the same tears as a grieving parent in Askira-Uba or even in Gaza or in Kebbi. The issue is not whose tragedy is greater. The issue is how Nigeria responds when tragedy strikes. When pupils were kidnapped in Oyo State, the incident generated widespread media attention. National newspapers carried the story prominently. Television stations provided continuous updates. Government officials issued statements. Security agencies publicly communicated rescue efforts. The incident became part of the national conversation. Political leaders reacted. Civil society organizations spoke out. Public pressure mounted. Many Nigerians followed developments closely, and eventually the rescue operations or efforts became a national. Now, consider the reaction from communities in Southern Borno after the abduction of 42 children from Mussa. Community leaders openly expressed frustration. Parents organized protests. The Nigerian Union of Teachers staged demonstrations. The Deputy Speaker of the Borno State House of Assembly joined public appeals. Members of the Margi community in Abuja organized fasting and prayers. Yet many residents felt that the level of national attention did not match the scale of their tragedy. No mass public statements from the churches, no mass public statements from political officials, no demonstration of national attention. For them, the silence or near silence was as painful as the abduction itself. Their question was simple. Would the responses have been different if the incident had occurred somewhere else? Whether the perception is entirely accurate or not is open to debate. Government officials may argue that security operations were underway and those security operations do not need to be disclosed. Security agencies generally often avoid releasing details of their activities.
We are gathered here, just like Jehoshaphat had said in the Bible. Father, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are open. So we have come because we believe there is power in the prayer of agreement, just like Matthew 18:18 says. And with that understanding, we've all gathered the Margi people here. Hold our hands in agreement because there is power in agreement. The Bible says one can chase 1,000 and 2 10,000. So it will, based on that note that we're here.
This is a legitimate consideration, but public perception matters because citizens judge institutions not only by what they do, but also by what they appear to be doing. When families believe that they have been forgotten, trust begins to erode, and trust is one of the most important resources in any security situation. The larger concern goes beyond Borno State. It touches a national question. Do Nigerians react differently depending on where an attack occurs? When violence happens in Lagos, Abuja, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, or Kano, it often dominates public discourse. But when attacks occur in remote areas, such as Taraba, Plateau, Borno, Yobe, especially in communities that have suffered repeated violence for years, there's the danger that the nation has become desensitized. The abnormal begins to look normal. The extraordinary becomes routine. And communities that have suffered the most begin to feel invisible. Perhaps this is one of the most important lessons from Mussa. The challenge is not only defeating those who abduct children. The challenge is ensuring that every child matters equally, whether they live in Oyo or in Borno, whether they attend school in Ibadan or Askira-Uba, whether their story trends on social media or not, or remains largely unknown outside their community. Because a nation cannot afford to protect its children selectively. The value of a Nigerian child cannot depend on the geography. It cannot depend on ethnicity. It cannot depend on religion. and it cannot depend on how much media attention a particular tragedy receives. And that brings us to yet another difficult question. 12 years after Chibok, have we truly learned the lessons of protecting vulnerable schools and communities?
We are here to cry to the Lord for our children that are carried in Mussa and in Uyo, and a lot of those that are not known, because these things are happening on daily basis. So we gather as a community of Margi people in Abuja to pray and intercede, to call upon God to release our children that are kidnapped.
The demands are straightforward. Rescue the children, secure vulnerable schools, protect frontline communities, strengthen intelligence gathering, improve surveillance, support local security partnerships, provide rehabilitation for victims, and ensure that every child matters equally, regardless of where they live. This should not be treated as another news cycle. It should be treated as a national emergency. Tonight's conversation is not really about Mussa. It is not really about Askira-Uba. It is not really about Chibok or Goza or Madagali or Oyo. It is about Nigeria. It is about the kind of country we are becoming and the kind of country we want to leave behind for our children. A nation where parents fear sending their children to school faces a profound challenge. A nation where communities live under the shadow of insecurity must confront uncomfortable truths. The children of Mussa are not strangers. They are our children. Their pain is our pain. Their future is our future. And perhaps the most important message from the Margi community in Abuja is this: no child should disappear into the wilderness of insecurity. No parent should have to pray for the return of a child who simply went to school. No community should feel forgotten. Nigeria must protect its children. Nigeria must secure its communities. And Nigeria must act before another family, another village, and another generation pays the price of our collective silence and inaction. If you believe conversations like this matter, please share this program. Discuss it, challenge it. Let it inspire meaningful conversations in your home, workplaces, schools, communities. My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. And remember, the goal is not merely to hear the news. It is to understand it, not merely to follow events, but to examine their consequences. Not merely to accept the obvious, but to explore the other side. Good night, and God bless Nigeria.